Being recorded, as you remember, and it's certainly, we thought mask wearing was difficult, but this is even more incredible. I congratulate you on your technology, being able to push that unmute button. You're very so welcome, and let's hope this is the last time we've got to have a meeting this way. Call for apologies.
No apologies.
No apologies, thank you. I need somebody to move the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'm happy to do.
Councillor Egan, seconded. Councillor Smith. I'll put that motion. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No, carried. There's no presentations. Call now for declarations of interest and conflicts of interest. Conflict of interest. Nothing. Nil.
Yes, John.
Yes, Councillor Dick.
John, I have a less than pecuniary interest as I live on Elkham Road with the late Confidential.
Okay, yeah. I don't think that's really a thing for you, but we'll note it anyway. You're doing the right thing. Just note it. Yeah. Did you have something too, Councillor Egan?
Yes, please. I want to note the same thing because my name appears on that document.
You signed the statement.
Okay, right, thanks. There is a late item, request for change of rating categorisation.
Oh, sorry, that's the one I'm talking about, the late item.
I just want to accept it on as a late item, that's all. Can I have somebody?
Yes, so moved.
Okay.
Seconded.
I'll second it.
I've got it seconded 3 times, that's very good, secure anyway. David seconded, Francis moved. So I think we can really do the op shop while Councillor Moore's coming.
Yeah.
And the question I asked the General Manager is, why is this report on our business paper? And the answer is because it's a committee of council.
And a brilliant committee of council they are.
It's been very successful, hasn't it? I've got to commend them on that.
Absolutely high energy, well run and doing well.
And submitting a report into the bargain. Good.
Yep.
With that photo of you, Councillor Egan, were you giving a cheque or accepting a cheque?
No, accepting a cheque. They gave a cheque to the community comfort and into the library on the same day.
Well, that is good. So
Plus, they've already given money to the school.
Yes. So they're doing an amazing amount of work.
So they've got a clothing bin or something, have they? Like, but how's it work?
People give donations.
Of clothing?
Yeah, but it gets...
Of anything. It's not just clothing, it's everything.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And it's community run and they're very eager group. Like, yeah, they do a lot for the town. They're donating a lot of money.
Yeah, well, it's a great benefit, isn't it, to have it?
And it's all clean and freshly sorted. They're doing an excellent job.
Yeah, they must have a fairly big committee by the look of it.
Yeah, and they're a happy and exciting committee to go in and talk to. They're very pleasant.
Are they allowed to be opened at the moment?
No.
Pardon?
No. They're closed.
Yes.
Not an essential.
Yeah.
I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Have a second.
I'll second it.
I got Councillor Smith beat you all.
Good.
Aye. Yes, no, carried. I didn't get the... I better wait now for Councillor Moore, I think. He's coming.
Yeah, that op shop is doing an amazing job selling plants from the living place.
Oh, yes.
And the young girl, I can't remember what her last name is, but she's, had the photography open shop, the old cafe. she's actually there as a volunteer and gets a percentage of the sale. She's taking care of it.
Yeah,
Great job.
She's actually got the plants at the Living Classroom going well. You can buy herbs at Faye's now, and you can buy lavender, and she's selling all the plants. She's sort of been very good for the Living Classroom.
Yes.
yeah, that's good. Well, while Curly's coming, can we discuss the council election, which is due on the 4th of December now? I'm really concerned, and I dare say a lot of people are, that it may be called off again. And I was going to suggest that we make representation to the minister that it be either a postal vote only, or if it is at all possible, electronic vote. It's the chances of not being able to go to a polling booth, I think, are pretty high.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, it's very uncertain anyway.
Have you heard anything, John, through any of your channels, any of the
No, I don't.
government committees or anything?
No, I haven't got any idea about what's going to be announced today. But I just know that they'll be hit with some resignations if we don't have an election. There's people that have stayed an extra year now and more, 13 months, 15 months. And, you know, well, I know that the mayor of Tamworth and Moree are both wanting to get out. But, I think it's imperative we have the election.
Has that come up at country mayors as a
We
topic?
haven't been able to have country mayors.
So you don't do it electronically?
No,
No.
we haven't, no.
What needs to be done, John? If we
Well, I just think
it's right,
make representation of the minister, I presume, to be the right, and copy Adam into it, but
Do you need a motion to that effect, Mr.
I
Mayor?
suppose we do.
Well, I'd move that we do make representation because like you, I think it's, the longer it goes on, the bigger trouble local government's going to have in representation. So,
Yeah.
so I'll move that we do.
Thank you, councillor Coleman. Second,
Yeah, I'll second it.
who was that?
Francis.
Yeah. All right.
I'll include it in the council's reports, but the
Right.
agenda just,
Yeah, I'm just trying to get something going.
and we'll put it again when Shirley's here.
Okay, so I've got it moved and seconded. I'll just wait until councillor Moore comes so he can vote.
Mhm.
Discussed and voted on that op shop thing because we thought we could do that.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Now, the next thing is we can go back on. Welcome, councillor Moore. The other thing that we're holding a vote on today, the motion is, Max, have you got it?
Yeah. That the council write to the Minister for Local Government, Adam Marshall, and the New South Wales Electoral Commissioner requesting that the scheduled 4th of December 2021 local government election be held as either a postal or electronic election.
So the logic behind that is that we believe we need to have the election and not put off again.
Yeah.
And we're probably getting in a line up that the other councils doing this, I'd imagine. I don't know. I think we need to do that. Anyway, we've got a move in a second. I'm going to put the motion. I'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried, you did.
Carried, yes. Now, item 2 is the adoption of the committee recommendations. Okay, so everybody's read this, so I'm looking for a mover of the recommendation. Right, we got a mover?
Tiffany Galvin,
Yep.
Thank you, councillor Galvin. Seconder,
Stuart Dick.
councillor Dick, thanks, that's good. Councillor Dick, is there any questions?
No.
I've already written to the
Yes.
to the ARTC about the opportunity for them, the Attract, Connect and Stay program.
Yeah.
And I've had a response saying that it's been considered.
Did you transfer him?
She was going to do that, the woman I wrote to.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a bit promising.
Well, hopefully that comes off, yeah.
Well, if there's no questions on that recommendation, I'll put it. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
No, carried, thank you. Item 3. Pardon me, council report for July.
Moved.
Councillor
Seconded.
Councillor Young. Any questions? Put the motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Item 4, the adverse event plan. I guess we've all read it.
Yes.
It just seems to me like in something like this, you're going to use common sense.
Yep.
And you attack it as it happens. I suppose it's handy having a plan to refer back to. But anyway, that's what it is. I have sorry?
Well, I was going to say, is there a purpose to identifying more issues that could happen? Like the one that I really worry about is having an accident on the bridge. And if that happens, what happens?
I think that's more of a risk control consideration.
Is it?
An adverse event plan. It was a ridiculous thing to write, actually. When we were looking at it, they were all top level type events where something like an assessment of a bridge accident would be more of a risk assessment process. That's the way I'd look at it. It was a funny thing to write, and we had to write it because of there was a requirement of our funding. So it's there, but it's not terribly useful, I wouldn't think.
No, I agree with that. And the other thing is transport emergency. If there's a chemical spill, we've even had this mentioned to us by a ratepayer. Obviously, I would have thought that the EPA would have stepped in there straight away, and we would be under their guidance as to what to do.
That's exactly right. In fact, we had an oil and diesel spill.
Yeah.
Last night before.
Up north.
Yeah. Our guys responded. We didn't require the EPA's assistance. We just put soil over the spill, and it went all the way from the Delunga turn up all the way up to All Nations Hill. Like the guy did a good job.
A lot of those, if I could comment, Mayor, a lot of those accidents on the bridge and those sort of things, they're covered under your LEMC plans. So that they're sort of acted on by emergency services more so than a general adverse plan. They're adverse at the time. It's a bit like fire encroaching on Warrialda. I mean, it comes under the emergency services as to what it's done. So I think a lot of those, they can be read in conjunction with this. To me, this adverse one looks as though it's more for drought and pandemics and those sorts of things.
Yeah, well, I think that is even mentioned in here, all the other agencies.
Yeah.
But I just think that you handle it as it happens. As far as drought goes, that's what we did. As the drought progressed, we started delivering water and things like that. But really, as far as the drought goes, limited to what the council.
Different every time.
It is. And the other thing, what I did think could have been mentioned in that report was our relative isolation in relation to a pandemic. Yeah, we're in a pretty fair position to start with, as opposed to other local government areas. And the other comment I had was to do with drought and water. I thought it was a good opportunity to inquire about how we're going with our application for another bore at Warrialda and for the licence to be restored to its full value of North Star. I think that's something that really needs advancing, and you're probably going to get less traction while it's raining for an application like that, but pretty important we get those two things in place.
And the other thing that I thought when I read through it was communication of emergencies. Well, we've identified that we would use SMS and goodness only knows what. What if there is no internet? What if there is no?
Well, there is a suggestion that we buy a sat phone. Is that likely?
What, that we would be down?
That we would have a satellite phone to fall back on.
So that's yeah.
That's, I think it's on the last page. Isn't it?
Yeah,
I think we experienced phones out a few times this last couple of weeks.
But how do you communicate? Yeah, sorry, but how do you communicate to the community if you're using SMS and internet and all that sort of stuff and that's down?
As I said, it was a very difficult thing to write and to think about all the possibilities, and I can't answer that question short of door knocking. And of course, you can't knock on every door.
I stood in at a emergency management meeting in Sydney when the previous engineer couldn't go and Dave couldn't go, so I went in. And the woman from New York spoke, who managed the it was 911, I think, and what they ended up using, because all of their comms were down, everything was down, they used push bikes to deliver messages.
They don't have 9,000 square
that's
kilometres.
what's going to happen here, but just that we need to be, we need to be on the front foot. Whoever thought that we'd have a pandemic? Whoever thought that?
And when our next, sorry.
Yes. Well,
No, you're right.
When our next crisis happens, I'm sure we won't go to this adverse event plan. I'm sure we'll look at it as it is, and we'll work out what's possible, what the environment's like, and then take action. It's not something that we will pick up and run with for every critical event that we have. It's going to be a case-by-case basis.
Exactly.
So
that's fair comment, Leah. The question I think maybe we could address now, as a result of this, though, is how we communicate with the community. I mean, since we've lost the paper, it's nigh on impossible. And I'm concerned about that. I don't know how we're going to do it. I mean, I do understand that there's a percentage of our population we can communicate with through in social media, but the ones that we've lost from the paper don't use social media as a general rule.
And unfortunately, the take-up with our newsletter hasn't been as good as we thought it would, or as we expected it to be. When people, they've just been reluctant to take it up on the sort of numbers that we expected. So communication, our communications plan is a consideration with the new IPNR process. So it's definitely on our agenda, and I don't have the answer, but we're going to have to look to see how we can do things differently and put a report to council as to, what things cost. We might have to continue funding a community newsletter that's free, who knows, but we will have to put some options to you, because it's on our agenda and it's a concern for us as well, because we know the messages are getting out there despite our every effort.
Yeah.
Well, you consider an upcoming council election, you've got a candidate that wants to stand that's not already on council. It's going to be very difficult for them to get that message out, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
I dearly miss the paper, and I know that we can't afford to have it. It's costing us too much.
Well, you could
They'll
afford
just
that.
have to do what we've done in the past and do their own mail outs and their own deliveries, hand deliveries and things like that. That's how we all sort of started off doing it.
Well, here's another example, and Alex might support me on this. We had a Zoom meeting with a consultancy group that we're hoping to use, and I asked that very same question: how are you going to consult with the community? And it is a problem, isn't it, Alex? They've only got to consult with the two towns, and they're going to do a letter drop, but you can't do that for 9,000 square kilometres.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
I think somewhere, sorry.
I was just going to say, as Leah said, after they've had a look at everything and in the IPNR documents, maybe we have to review whether or not we do have a paper. Maybe
Yes.
that $100,000 was a good investment and not a bad one.
And maybe, maybe.
Yeah.
Or even once a fortnight, have a paper.
Yeah.
Or we continue with the newsletter and it be free and delivered to each household. So we just haven't done the numbers as yet, but we certainly will pull together something to put to council for consideration.
Yeah, well done, Leah. Yep.
Despite our every effort, people still want that bit of paper in their hand, I think. And there's, as the Mayor said, there's a fair percentage of our community that aren't still accessing social media for their news and updates, which is challenging.
Yeah.
That newsletter, Leah, would be about 60,000 a year, wouldn't it?
Possibly. I'd have to, I don't want to say yes because I'm not completely sure, but it certainly would be up there.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just reading. I thought we were told each one was costing about 5,000.
Yeah.
Are we not factoring wages, John, which was a cost that we factored in with the newspaper as well? So that would be an additional cost.
Yeah, I thought it was more than that.
The advantage of having a newspaper is you could attract more advertising. Is that correct?
Yes. Although our local businesses were not supporting the newspaper, even our larger employers in town. So that was the tragedy with that we're saying as a community we need it, but the bigger businesses in the local government area were choosing to advertise online and not in printed media. So it was a difficult one.
And I can say as a business in town, we're guilty of that too, because of the way things are and looking at cost cutting when you can advertise for free online. So we are guilty of that. But when you look into all the things that are happening at the moment, you sort of, cut costs when you can. So it's sort of a no-win situation, isn't it?
Very tricky one.
Yeah, it is. It's because you want to, and you, like as a business owner, you want to support those things, but you also, it's hard at the moment.
I suppose we'd have to try and get a message through that, you know, we've been putting the message out about shopping at home. Maybe we need support for that as well. But anyway, I look forward to your report, Lou.
Should we be looking at other towns the size of Warialda and Vingra, see what they're doing? Because it is a problem. Yeah. And if we're putting out $60,000 or $70,000 a year, should we be looking at if there was someone been running a paper to pay them that to do it for some sort of a commission to get it going? I don't know. I mean, it'd be a matter of finding someone that could do it.
I think it was the printing. It was one of the biggest ones, wasn't it?
The fact that the newspaper in that form could only be printed in Sydney, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But there's a number of factors that led to the unfortunate demise of the paper. But the last straw was the fact that we could only get the paper printed in Sydney and the costs associated with that. But and just the fact that there was little to no advertising, and we'll put together a report so you can have all the facts in front of you. But
it would seem that the support's there to read it, but not just support it in the financial way. But I think the opportunity's there now. Adam had a report out about 2 towers. We still need to have that finance come forward to do the Horton and keep fighting for the connections down there. They haven't got anything yet. And Copton, have we got any final word on Copton?
What about?
Not that I'm aware about. That's good.
The towers and everything.
See, that's a federal government thing, and we've been there, Catherine, haven't we? And we've had broken promises.
Absolutely, they've broken their promises, and there's no support from them. But Adam did put in a report the other day about 2 towers up around the Glen Innes area that they co-funded.
Oh yeah, I think the state was doing. That's right.
Yeah, and I think that it's time we looked into that again.
Were they co-funded through the wind farms?
I don't know where they were
funded there.
Yeah, I don't know where it was. I haven't got the report in front of me, but I think that the Horton and Copton Dam areas are pretty critical in our local government area.
Yeah, well, there's a federal election coming up. Maybe we'll get some traction.
With Barnaby, we've been to his office at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, just a question on the paper and that. How does Kingy survive on what he's doing?
No, I don't know. He's got subscribers, like, and advertising.
Yeah.
You have to pay for a subscription. You only get a little bit if you don't.
Yeah, that's right.
But
It's just an interesting, horrible thing.
yeah, I don't think it's a very big circulation.
Yeah, right. It's funny how he's surviving. We can't make him survive.
But it's not printed either, Curly. It's just it's only online.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'd get a truthful answer there either.
You would not.
Being recorded, this meeting.
We know.
All right. Well,
Oh,
forgotten what action we're up to. The adoption of the plan, is it?
Well, I've added,
Okay, let's see it.
well, the recommendation plus further that it be noted that Quieter Shire's relative remoteness is at times an advantage, such as during a pandemic, and further the staff report of the options for improved communications using either community newsletters or newspaper.
Yeah. Look forward to your report.
sorry, can I just say one more thing? I had to duck out because my iPad keeps going flat after about 10 minutes. So I had to find a charger.
You changed position on the screen too.
What did you say?
You've changed position on the screen. You've moved down to the bottom or dead centre.
You did your hair too.
Nice lippy, Chair.
What about if you put you know how we had the problem with the phones, or going back to what Francis said, when all the phones went out and the internet went out. So when we've got
Tiff, you're breaking up.
Take a deep breath.
As soon as the power goes out,
I think the power's gone out.
yeah.
Oh.
As soon as the power goes out, a generator kicks in. So couldn't we have a generator at the tower? So as soon as the power goes out, the generator kicks in?
All right. That's
Then you want electric. You can't do that.
That's possible, I would say.
Actually, when you're writing letters, I think our own services here in, I don't know whether Warrior is the same, but the services in Bingara are not good.
They've gotten worse.
They've got really bad, and I think that should be something that maybe the council takes on board and investigates where our services are going and why they're so poor. There've been a number of residents have spoken to me about it and asked what we could do, and I said, well, probably really was now that they needed to write to their member, but I think that perhaps council could write on residents' behalf.
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah, I'm just talking to Max. Max and I had a meeting with a representative, here we go, David Crow. Yeah, he used to be with electricity people, and he's now the community engagement manager for Hunter New England NBN. He was looking for issues, wasn't he? Maybe we can meet with him again. David Crow, he's a nice bloke.
I think on behalf of residents, we need to do something.
Yep.
All right, anyway, we'll just, Max can do that without a resolution. The resolution, but Max read the resolution with the additions.
They noted that Quieter Shire's relative remoteness is at times an advantage, such as during the pandemic, and further the staff reported the options for improved communications using the newsletters or newspaper.
Right.
Yep.
I'll move that one.
Councillor Carlton moved that, and Councillor Moore has seconded it. So I'll put that motion there. Pardon me, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, carried. Item 5 is risk assessment appetite. Risk appetite assessment, it says here.
Yeah.
That to do with eating too much?
This is similar to the last report in that it's fairly theoretical. Anyway, I don't have any problem with it. I don't know whether anyone wants to comment on it.
No.
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
I'll second that.
Move Councillor Egan, seconded by Councillor Smith. Any questions? Not trying to rush this, but not much in it. Happy to vote?
Yep.
Put vote, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
No, carried, thank you.
That was Catherine there.
And Jeff. Now the last item in the general meeting anyway is the monthly investment report. Now Helen, can't really see you, but we'd love to hear you. Oh yeah, there you are. See your hand. There, that's it. You have a lot of money on this report, Helen.
There is, but most of it's restricted because of all the grant funded works we've got.
Yeah, there's not too much interest on the other.
No, the interest rate's very, very, very sad.
Extremely
But
sad.
we do have a lot of cash in the bank, but if you look at where it's restricted, there's over $6 million in the grant funded works that we've had money come in that we've got to hold as restricted.
Yeah.
But then you look at rates collection and it's higher than it's ever been in 3 years. So
It's excellent, Helen.
you tell me.
It's worse than Tracy.
Yeah, no, that is a good one. I mean, we're representing good, decent, honest people, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's about all.
Anything you want to add to that, Helen?
No, unless anyone's got any questions, but.
Helen,
Yeah, Councillor Dick.
Helen, just of interest, with the pandemic around, how secure are our two investments with T Corp if anything happened with the banking system?
So the cash one is fine. The only one we can possibly take a hit on is the, we've got it in a medium growth, but some in a medium growth and some in a cash. So the cash is fine. The medium growth could take some of a hit, and it has over the years, but we don't put a lot in there. Most of it sits in the cash fund.
Yeah, you're not going to lose. You're not going to make money with it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anybody have any other questions of Helen?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor Galvin. I'll put the motion over in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. We go to councillor report now, and you will have the opportunity to do the confidential section also if you need to. And I'll start on the screen. I'll start with Councillor Dick. Do you have anything, councillor reports, Councillor Dick?
No, nothing from me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon.
No.
I think Councillor Young. Eddie.
No, just what I said about that person that came through that program of Chris Turner's. I think that's a good outcome.
Yeah. Councillor Galvin.
No.
This is fantastic, this electronic meeting. We're getting tipped. Councillor Egan.
Oh, wait a minute, the maid's just bringing the coffee again. And now he's bolted. Just when we've got some hot mix, Max, that we might have a tiny bit left over. As you come in out of IGA, there's a huge pothole there. Could we fill that in for them?
I'll get it sorted.
Thank you.
Oh,
They haven't asked, mind you. It was just that I went through there the other day and it was full of water and I got the car dirty.
Oh, bugger.
You're going to say
I'm on to it, Councillor Egan.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Moore. Oh, hang on a minute. Tiff.
sorry,
Tiff,
Alex, can I just ask you, did you have a chance to have a look at the cemetery, the water yet?
Yeah, Peter's been up there. I can't report back on what the findings were, I'm sorry, but I'll fire off a question now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, councillor Moore.
Mr. Mayor, Alex, up in Bell's Lane up here, I think. Bell's Lane crosses both sides, doesn't it?
Probably, yeah, it would do.
Anyway, down in Bell's Lane on the eastern side, there's a palm tree and a dead tree there that's causing a bit of concern to a few people. But I think it's on private property, so it might be their issue, not ours, I think.
I'll investigate. I'm not aware of anything within the road reserve, but I'll investigate and report back.
Yeah, there's just a big dead tree on the left-hand side, and there's a palm tree on the right that's coming out of someone's yard, I think it is, by the look of it.
Okay.
Anyway, mind just having a look at Alex, that's all. Thank you.
Certainly.
You finished now?
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Jeff?
Yeah. Just a couple of things there. The tip, Max, we understand that the tips are closed apart from people that can't access
non-Melbourne people who
a few people, including myself, went out there Sunday, I think it was. The gates were shut. There was no sign of anyone there. There was a car there. How do we get in touch? Because the gates are shut, and a few people, I know 2 or 3 other people said the same thing.
Councillor Smith, there should be a phone number on the sign on the gate. I'll check if that's not there. I'll have that sorted this morning.
Anything, but I wasn't looking because I thought, it's just been shut. But,
so we closed the gate in an attempt to deter people that shouldn't have been there and just open it up for business as usual, because our advice has been, as Max has shared with everybody, that the landfill should be closed to people who have a domestic waste service. If there isn't a phone number there, I'll have that sorted this morning, because it should be up.
Yeah, it may be there. I don't know, but a few people have asked, and I just went out and put mine back in the creek. And this will do it before. The other one, Max, Stephen, the shop across the road, Stephen Green.
Yeah.
Where are we up to with that? What's the story there?
The purchase of 40.
Yeah, have we actually purchased or what?
Oh, well, we're in the process of, we've paid a deposit.
Yep.
And we're in the process of exchanging contracts. We're undertaking a inventory of all the things that are in that building. We're going to try to find out if there's anyone that does own stuff that's there, because if they do, they need to remove it. Yeah. It's progressing.
Yep. That's on the move.
Until we actually exchange contracts, I haven't contacted person going to ask to have a look at it as a landscape design. But once the contracts are exchanged, I'll be doing that. And then I'd imagine he's in Wollongong, I think, so there'll be some difficulty getting up here for some time, but we'll involve the Chamber of Commerce and other interested parties in the district.
Sounds good.
Max, I think I did give to Carmel Chapel the other day, like that owns all the stuff in there, his phone number, so I don't know.
Yeah, I wish that was part of that process. Yeah, follow up.
Right. You anything else?
I'll move the car.
Mentioned we went down the Oregon Road the other day, Eddie, Alex, and things look good down there. We have got a bit of a problem on the Durang Road coming off the Oregon Road where we live.
Yep.
A few complaints from residents up there. It does really need a grader put up there again at some stage. I don't know whether there indeed at some stage.
So our intent there, Councillor Smith, is to cut the material we've put on Oregon Road and resheet the full length of Durang Road.
Yeah, good, yeah.
If it needs a grader for accessibility reasons before we put some gravel there, we have 2 graders on Oregon Road, so I'm happy to send one up there.
Yeah, we're just mucking around with it ourselves with an old tractor at the moment, but if
that's the case, I'll get a grader up there.
It's not that we can't get out, it's just bloody rough.
Okay.
I'll talk to you about it later on anyway.
All right, no problems.
Yeah.
That'll do me.
Right, I think Councillor David Colton.
No, nothing other than what I included yourself and Max in the other day in a comment from a resident who walks up behind Long Street. Apparently some of our erstwhile residents have taken to dumping the green waste up there. So that's just a bit of a problem, but you know, hopefully they don't. Yeah, a bit of worry.
We couldn't get green waste to be identified as an essential requirement, so they can't go to the tip. Alex, did you want to make a note about that trial that you were talking to me about?
The trial. Sorry, you'll have to expand. Which trial, Max?
It was a road on road. How you going?
Oh, yes, sorry, on Oregon Road, yes. So the Fixing Local Roads money for Oregon Road has, I'd intended to put this in my report for next month, but happy to talk about it now. That project is well ahead of budget, and we have been in discussions with a sealing company called Colas, who have a product called a graded seal, which is a bitumen seal made up of a number of sizes of aggregate rather than a single size aggregate, and it's a bit of a poor man's asphalt. We intend to run a 500 metre trial of that seal on Oregon Road. It's being offered to us at a very discounted rate. There is I'd say there's a 50% chance that it will fail. There's a 50% chance that it will succeed, and if it succeeds, it's a way to seal roads, provide a level of service better than a gravel road for substantially cheaper than our current practices. They're selling it as a product that you can put straight on top of a gravel road, and that's been happening quite a lot over at Glen Innes Council, and our staff have been to inspect the roads over there. So there'll be a 500 metre section of Oregon Road with a bitumen seal on it. It will be signposted to say that it's a trial and that it is sponsored by Colas. And I'm hopeful that it's going to be a good result and it will last, but we just need to be very clear, and we will be on social media as well, that it is a trial. It's being offered at a discounted rate, and if it works, then it has the potential to save us a gutload of money in the future.
That will absorb all the excess you're going to have, isn't it, on that road?
No. The way that project is tracking considerably under budget at the moment.
So would you consider extending the bitumen then with what you've got left?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We have until, I believe, December to complete the entire project, and we will most likely wrap up go back a step. We have December to finish the project. That seal trial will be happening in the next couple of weeks. So we've got several months to see how it's going to handle the conditions, and if it's good, if it works, then the logical solution, or the logical place to spend the money, would just go back to the end of the existing bitumen, and do as many kilometres as we can for the residual budget. It would require an amendment with the program coordinators, but I'd be enormously surprised if they wouldn't accept it.
Okay, so this new product, Alex, what do you get? 60% more distance, or how much cheaper is it than a bitumen seal?
So I'm only working on what we've been told by the salesman. So I'll say all of this with that in mind. We're advised that, and Glen Innes Council have been doing the same thing. We're advised that it can go straight on top of a well-compacted gravel road. We can resheet a road for about $60,000 a kilometre if we're doing a pretty gold-plated resheet. To build the base for a sealed road, $300,000 to $400,000 a kilometre, sometimes more. The cost of the seal is quite comparable. If we hadn't seen it on the ground at Glen Innes, if they didn't have the success there, I'd be a hell of a lot more sceptical than I am. But I think it's too good of an opportunity not to trial it.
Sounds good.
If it fails, does it cost a lot more to go back over it and repair it?
It'd be half a day with a grader to chop it off.
Okay. Yep.
What's it called, Alex?
It's a graded seal. They're not a new thing. They're a fairly new thing in Australia, though. I think Canada was originally where it was implemented. The difference between it and a normal bitumen seal is that it has a number of different sizes of aggregate, which helps it bind together. And the product that we're using has a rubber additive in it as well.
Right.
Right, interesting. Alex, I'll just in my little bit, then I'll come back to you for an update on the bypass, if you like. Yeah, I just wondered, have you finished, David? I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, John.
Part of my report, I just wanted to move that motion that we compliment the indoor staff at Bingra for the magnificent job they've done in moving and handling the problem with the building, considering we've been in lockdown during that time. And I think it's important that we do recognise the effort that's been made. And I'll be looking for a second vote for that.
I'm happy to do that.
I'll second that.
Councillor
I'll
Young.
second it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Young got it. All right, I'll put that motion, then those in favour say aye.
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 Thank you.
John,
We,
can I just have another question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
At last meeting, there was a mention of somebody repairing a ramp or doing something and had an accident or was going to council.
Alex,
I can expand on that. It was a creek crossing at the end of a council road that was essentially, it does function as a private access. A landholder had, I'm not sure if the tractor had rolled or if it just became stuck in a precarious position, but I subsequently spoke with the landholder and we've done some work for them. There was no mention in the discussion I had with them about a claim for damages.
Yeah.
So there's nothing really further to report on that.
All sorted. Well done.
Very good.
Yeah, I think that it sparked the interest in insurance and about the discussion when Alex said if the landholder is responsible for the approaches to a grid, and something like this happens, where do we sit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this wasn't a grid.
We're talking about, but we're talking specifically grids.
Yep.
And the ruling with grids is that a landholder is responsible for the approaches to a grid.
That's not explicitly stated in the Roads Act. That's council's policy.
That's correct.
So we need to be fairly vigilant on keeping on to landholders that have deficient grids, and we're in the process of getting some letters out to a number of landholders across the Shire. So we do have a responsibility, and we can't palm it straight back to the landholders. The Roads Act is a bit funny because it states private gates and grids are a bit of an extension to gates on public roads. At any rate, it's something that we're on top of and working with landholders.
Alex, the question is,
yep.
If our policy is that a landholder is responsible for the approaches to a grid, and something like this happens where he tips his machine over, how do we fare?
I would have to seek legal advice on that. It would be an interesting situation where somebody's going to tip a machine over, patching gravel on the approaches to a grid.
I agree with that.
Yeah, this incident that we had, it wasn't a grid, it was a creek crossing.
That was illegal work anyway, wasn't it?
It was what, sorry?
It would have been illegal work anyway, that one.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. It was done without consent.
Anyway, all right, that's it. I agree with you. It's highly unlikely anything's going to happen. We were just intrigued as to where we would stand if something did happen.
Yeah, so to the letter of the law, we should be issuing what's called a Section 138 approval to anybody who is doing works within a road corridor, and we've just issued a bunch of them to Inland Rail. But even for private landholders on a grid, the appropriate way to do it is to specifically outline the works, the methodology, and when they will take place, and we issue an approval for something very specific. And part of that would be that there'd have to be safety systems of some persuasion implemented.
So can I just butt in there? So you said it previously that it was the Road Act was a bit sort of grey on that whether it was the responsibility of the landowner or the responsibility of council. So does our policy or override what the Road Act is?
If it came to court, I'd say it's unlikely.
That's right.
It would seem so.
So, because what you're saying there, all of those provisions and legal bits and Section 1, whatever it was, sounds like an awful lot of paperwork for a little bit of grading for approach to a ramp, which...
And that's why we're moving away from putting all the responsibility back on a landowner, and working as closely as we can to grids when we have graders on site. We really only where we do have to work with landholders and issue directions is when there is a failing grid. A failing approach I see more as a responsibility of council. A failing grid, the responsibility of the landholder.
I think what you're trying to do is legislate the common sense. Pretty difficult one, Alex.
It certainly is.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's the end of the council reports, and we can move into our confidential session. Pardon me, and I'd ask for somebody to move that way.
Happy to.
Councillor Egan, seconded.
Yep.
Councillor Moore, put that motion. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, the recommendations from the confidential session are the adoption of the confidential recommendations, that the following recommendations are adopted, that the confidential organisational and community services report be received and noted. Further, that the building office report is received and noted. There was also a request for a change of rating categorisation, and the committee has resolved to recommend to council that the report be received and that the property's rating category be changed from Bingra urban residential to rural residential, but accepting that the property does not technically meet the definition for rural residential, and noting that this would reduce the rates payable by $911.89 in the current financial year.
So I need somebody to move that this meeting accept those recommendations from the confidential session.
I will.
Councillor Galvin, and a seconder.
Yeah.
Councillor Young, I believe. I'm not sure who it was.
Yeah, it was me.
No. I'll put the motion then. Those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against no. Carried. That concludes our meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance under difficult circumstances. And we'll hopefully we'll see you all in a month's time at our normal venue, or maybe even a fortnight's time. Stuart.